Abaye the elder said, a quarrel becomes like a board in a bridge. Once it has stood, it stands. It's part of a longer Talmudic discussion about resolving disputes promptly, right? You don't do it, you let things fester, it becomes harder to deal with them. Sort of obvious. But actually, I think the metaphor of the bridge and what it evokes is quite rich. There's a point at which hurt and anger and resentments, if unaddressed, become so ingrained that they become almost fixed, like a board in a bridge. It's a very different image of a bridge than we've been using. Here, the stability of the bridge is not a good thing. It's a problem. It's rigidity. And this bridge doesn't offer connection, transition, support through difficult times. It's not the very narrow bridge. It's more like the Verrazzano bridge, which is likely to keep you stuck. Or you can think of a tension bridge, right? Like a stone arch where the pressure from both sides keeps the stones in place. This is a tension bridge, sustained by a very different kind of tension. A bridge is a well-traveled passage, the path we take to cross a gap or difficult terrain. And it's a good analogy for neural pathways in the brain. Rabbi Bueno, as a therapist, can speak more knowledgeably than I about the neuropsychology of it all, as I know some of the therapists and scientists in the room can. But I know enough to know about the reality of well-established patterns in the body and in the brain, like the fight or flight response that keeps us so activated. We have established patterns in our relationships too, obviously, ways of crossing the gaps between us that are so well traveled, they become our defaults. And it's lovely when we think of bridges and we have bridges between us that are built of understanding and kindness and compassion, and they enable us to connect and beautifully traverse distance. And sometimes that's true. And sometimes the bridges between us are built in part, or chas v'shalom, in whole, of anger and conflict. We're connected, but the connection is one of shared negativity, of well-rehearsed injuries and accumulated resentments. And they become our relationship defaults. Whenever a gap is felt or there's stress, they're going to resurface, and we're going to walk that path again. I'm sure that most of us know that feeling. Oh, we're going there again? It's about more than just the passage of time. It's about the costs to everyone when hurt and resentment go unaddressed, when we don't meaningfully apologize when we know we've hurt someone, or when we don't tell someone that we're hurt and we're angry, or we just don't make the time and make the effort to really talk about things and work them through. And without putting undue pressure on anyone to forgive prematurely when there hasn't been genuine tshuva, or when the hurt is deep and before we're really ready. It also speaks to the costs of holding on to grudges and nursing resentments without reason, or because we just don't want to do the work, or because having the moral upper hand makes us feel powerful. That little line in the Talmud is about emotional courage and the lack thereof. It's about conflict avoidance and rationalization and the unwillingness to work at relationships. And before you know it, your marriage, family, close friendships, the office, start to feel like the GW Bridge, a big traffic jam with everyone honking, going nowhere. Like Bridgegate, remember that? Oh, for the days when that was a big scandal. At best, if we engage in this, the plank becomes a piece of a relationship. But at worst, it can also become, as I said, the entirety of a particular relationship. The only way two people or a family system know how to connect with each other. And even if there's still love there, all that's left, the way we engage, is recrimination and hurt and anger. And at worst, really worst, it can become my bridge to the world. After a while, my default is to see disrespect and injury everywhere. And as we see, that can start to define a whole culture. The politics of grievance, groups of angry people feeding off their sense of injury. I firmly believe it is never too late. I hope I'm right. But we all know that the longer these things go addressed, once the planks of the bridge are so solidly fixed and the pathways are so well worn, at a minimum, it takes enormous effort and time to forge new pathways, find new ways to connect, and let those old ones go. And that, I want to say, speaks to one of the greatest blessings of Yom Kippur. As I said last night, this is such an amazing opportunity and gift to be pushed, to look at the patterns in our lives, the planks of the bridges that we cross all the time, to really spend time, to feel obligated to spend time looking at them and seeing which ones we really need to deal with. And looking at whatever is in our heart that we're holding before it becomes a plank in the bridge, right? Whether we're refusing to forgive and we're angry, and to really say, you know, have I raised this with the person? What am I avoiding here? Why am I so easily angry? I've got to deal with that before it becomes even harder. Or, you know, I did wrong to someone and they're right to be angry with me. And I've been feeling the distance and the coldness and the discomfort in the relationship. When am I gonna say, I'm sorry? When am I really gonna step up into the plate before it's just, this is how we are with each other? It's an amazing opportunity to make sure that our quarrels don't harden into patterns and go-to positions and planks in bridges. Don't waste it.